Right, so we have a new workbook which contains one or more spreadsheets. So what are we going to do with Excel? Well, we can enter data, but enter data of what? Well, you see these lines. We've got lots of lines going down and lines going across, and each of these make up a rectangle. Well, these rectangles are called cells. So each individual cell, there's one cell, there's another. You can get from one to another by just clicking. You can also use the arrow keys on your keyboard, up, down, left, right, and you can use other keys such as home and end and page down and page up. Now you'll note that the numbers and the letters will always give you a reminder of where you are, but we'll come on to those a bit later. Now you know how to navigate this green box, which is the cursor. What can you do? Well, you can enter some data, and I'm going to do that literally. Enter data. So you can enter data, and maybe you can enter some numbers. You can enter dates, and you can enter currency. So $20 or £20 or €20, depending on how your computer is set up as to what particular currency you use. Now, everything else that I'll be teaching you in this course is how to reduce the amount of time it takes to do the other things. But data and the entering of data is in some ways the hardest job of the spreadsheet. Now, we'll get into later how best to present data in a spreadsheet, but for now, we're just entering data. We've got arrow keys, we've got page down, page up, home and end, and we've got something else. So if I was just to enter some data, I can press the Tab key, that's on the left hand side of your keyboard, to get to the next cell. So here is where the Tab key is on my particular keyboard. Now I can enter more data, Tab, yet more data, Tab, and each time Tab takes me to the right. And you can say, well, that's exactly what happens when you press the right arrow key. But what happens next is instead of pressing the down arrow key, I press the enter or return key. So here's the enter key on my keyboard, and if you've got a number pad, you might find the return key about here, just to the right of the numbers. So let's see what happens when I press the enter or return key. Now, if I had pressed the down key, I would just be going straight down. But now I've pressed the enter key, it's like a typewriter. It goes all the way back to the left of where you started and then down one row. And it's the same when you keep entering more data and pressing Tab between each one and then press enter. It gets you back to the left handmost column where you started. And it's quite convenient if you're entering data in a semi-structured format, like maybe a table. Now, incidentally, if you want to go backwards with all of these tabs, you can do. You can hold down Shift and then press Tab and release Shift. And that gets you going backwards. Now, it may be that you've realized you've made a mistake and you're going, oh, I'm going to need to change that. So if you press Shift and Tab, you can correct it and then move on. Now you'll notice when I'm entering data, as soon as I press the letter E, what's happening? It's a bit like in telesense that you have on telephones nowadays. So the phone goes, what do I think the next word is? Well, no, actually, it's nothing like that. Instead, rather than it looking at your local language and suggesting what the next word is, it's just looking straight up in the columns of data and going, okay, you've previously said enter data, so I'm guessing, and it's only a guess, that the next data you're going to enter is going to be enter data. Now you can see that as soon as I press a different letter, like the letter M, it's not going to try and guess this line of text because there is no previous text in this column that starts EM. So I'm just going to cancel the changes that I've just made to this one cell. I'm still editing it. To cancel my changes, I press Escape. That's at the top left of my keyboard. So if I was to press E again, then it's got enter data. I could press tab to accept or any of the arrow keys, but as soon as I type something which is not part of the suggestions, it then stops any further suggestions. Now, if you're still editing and you've made a mistake in the cell, you can press backspace just to get rid of the very last character that you have typed. So what is the advantage of this autocomplete? Well, let's say I was doing a table and with parts in it, and let's say somebody ordered a scanner and then a tea and then another scanner and then a printer and then another scanner, and you've got a huge order, then things will start naturally to repeat themselves. And it'd be nice if the computer was to help you with this typing, which, as I said at the beginning of this video, is actually the hard part of the spreadsheets. And this allows for consistency because you might accidentally make a typing error or try to put things in a different way. It just tries to speed you up if possible. Now, it could be that you've got so many fields, so many cells going across, and you've got a company like Toshiba that is doing all of these. So I'll just type Toshiba, and now I want the total. So I type T, or it's still trying to autocomplete with the word Toshiba, but as soon as I type the letter T, it goes, no, it's nothing to do with Toshiba. And then if I was later down to type T, well, it doesn't know whether I want Toshiba or total. It will only suggest one thing, and it will only suggest that when it's fairly certain. So as soon as I type in the letter O, nope, still not sure. Letter S, I think you mean Toshiba. So Excel is intelligent enough to not suggest something until it's fairly certain that it is actually what you want. But in this case, I'm going to cancel what I'm entering in this cell. So how do I cancel? I press Escape. So any of the current edits that you are making, if you decide you don't want any of them, press Escape and it will revert back to where you are. So we've done a lot in this video. We've entered numbers, we've entered data, we've entered currency. Now there's just one more thing to do at this stage, and I'll explain more once we start getting into formulas later. And there's one thing you can't easily do, and that is entering text which starts with an equal sign or a plus sign. Now, once we get into formulas, I'll explain what formulas are then. I'll explain what those equals and plus signs are. But if I was trying to type this in and press enter, you can see the computer is very bemused. It thinks it's something called a formula, it's not, and therefore it just holds its hand up and says, I'm sorry, I've got no idea what you're talking about. So at the moment, please don't start any cell with the equal sign or the plus sign. Now you can put those signs in later, so 2 plus 2 equals 4 is absolutely fine, but just don't start cells with a plus or equal sign just for now. And that's how you enter data into spreadsheets.